Hi everyone, I'm Matt Scarsbrook and I'm a soft tissue therapist, meaning I work with rehabbing injuries and painful conditions. Over the next 12 weeks, I'll be providing you with some videos focused on increasing flexibility and mobility, which should marry up nicely with the workouts Ben Richards is doing with you. I'm going to quickly cover what we're aiming to do and the proposed progression, and a little bit of knowledge as to why we're doing it. Personally, I find that because everyone has different capabilities and goals, understanding why and how we're doing something makes it easier to apply and make safe, effective progress. So first things first, what do we mean by flexibility and mobility? They're two different terms, right? In short, flexibility is pretty passive. It's the ability to hold a stretch, like being able to touch your toes. It can look impressive, but it's not necessarily useful unless we can do something with it. That's where we switch to the term mobility, the ability to move through range under some kind of load. They are similar but different, and we're going to be using principles of flexibility to help you build your functional mobility. There are going to be 3 4-week phases that we're going to go through, easing you into more challenging but rewarding movements. Second bit of information for today that applies for the whole program. In this scenario, pain does not equal gain, all right? Quite the opposite. If you push to the point of pain or through it, you will likely just end up feeling tight and grumpy. And here's the why. Our overall ability to stretch a muscle is actually controlled by not by the muscle itself, but by the nervous system. We'll explore this in more detail as we go, but think of it a bit like a protection mechanism. If the nervous system feels it's safe to move into a stretched position, it will allow the muscle to do so. If it feels threatened by pain or too much load, it will prevent you and tighten the muscle up to protect you. So with all these movements, remember there's a significant difference between comfortable challenge that gives that "oh, that's a good stretch" kind of sensation, or "damn, that hurts." Let's stick with the first option. ACE. So we're going to go in nice and easy today with some movements that you'll be likely familiar with, 2 upper body and 2 lower body. There aren't particularly progressions and regressions at this stage. It's more a case of moving within your own limits and seeing where your starting point is. So let's crack on. I'll be demonstrating where certain stretches can be applied to seated or standing, and none of these exercises are a test of your balance. So if you need multiple props, walls to lean on, all that kind of stuff, make sure you use it. It's more about the stretch and the movement, the mobility through the joint than it is about testing your balance. So the first one we're going to work on is we're going to start in the upper body, and we're actually going to work the traps. Now these are the muscles that connect from the tops of your shoulders and run up the side of your neck, and can sometimes even be felt coming right in to the back of the skull. Now it's really common, particularly when people are stressed, to feel tightness along this area of the traps on both sides, and that's partly because when we're stressed we tend to hunch our shoulders up, we tend to push our shoulder blades up. You often hear people talking about, "oh, my shoulders around my ears." So it can be a really nice, actually relaxing stretch as much as mobility work to be able to give a bit of a stretch through here. Now there are some cracking stretches that can be done with a partner, which I'll probably recruit someone in the next couple of weeks to come and demonstrate, so you might be able to pull in someone at home or a mate to come and help you with some of those. But in these early stretches, we're going to do everything that you can do by yourself. So these muscles, these traps, there are actually 3 parts to them, and they are used in different ways in terms of turning your head and raising your shoulder. And so as a result, what we want to do is we want to be able to turn our head the other way and somehow increase the length through here. And so what I do for this, what I get my clients to do, is to push away, drive the shoulder blade down and away, and then tilt the head and turn. And in there, you're going to feel a nice stretch. And you can ease yourself into this, so you can kind of tilt turn, and then push the shoulder blade down and away. And feel free to explore where it feels best for you. So for me, it's about there today. I can feel a nice stretch through there. And despite what you might have been previously told, there is no magic number for the amount of time to hold a particular stretch. Somewhere between 15 and 30 seconds feels about right. Now, for those of you who are struggling to get a bit of a stretch going on like this, I've actually got just a light weight here, so I just happen to have a small dumbbell. I'm going to be able to use just a heavy water bottle or something like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use it to help pull my arm down. All right, so it's just going to provide a little bit of weight so I can get a nice stretch, find where it feels good, and I've got a nice stretch going on through here. And then obviously we switch sides. So I'm using my weight, or I'm pushing down away from me. This side feels a little bit tighter for me. So I'm going to go and turn. And I think you can see, in fact, it feels a little bit tighter for me today. Now, obviously we can use this seated. My weight. Awesome. So that's working what's known as our upper traps. And that should leave you feeling like you've had a nice stretch through the tops of your shoulders, up into your neck, and maybe makes you feel like you can move your neck around just a little bit easier. So the next exercise, or the next mobility work we're going to do is for the shoulders. And again, this one's really easy to do either seated or standing. To begin with, I'm going to show it standing simply because then I'm a little bit closer to the camera and hopefully you'll be able to hear me. So our shoulders should be able to go through full range of movement. Okay, they can go through nice big circles. It's a really mobile joint as a shoulder. But because it's so mobile, if the nervous system feels threatened, like we discussed before, it can start to feel quite tight, and we can find ourselves lacking a little bit of movement and not being able to go quite as far as we'd like. So you might find that you're trying to reach overhead to pick something off a high shelf and you don't seem to be able to quite get there. You don't seem to be able to open up quite as much. So what we're going to do is we're going to slowly take the shoulder through full range, and we're going to start pushing a little bit into that it's challenging but we're still comfortable kind of motion. So what we're going to do to begin with is we're going to lead with our thumb, and we're going to bring our hand up to the point that we can't go back any further. We're then going to ever so slightly turn our thumb inwards until we get a little bit more movement backwards, and again a little bit more movement, and you'll see I'm slowly turning my hand to allow my arm to go all the way around. And then I'm going to come back up, leading again with the thumb. We're going to come up. We're going to find that point that I can't go any further. Turn this way. I can't go any further backwards. So I'm going to start turning my thumb. My elbow is going to start turning out with me. And I come round. Now this should feel pretty challenging. We should be only turning our hand, turning our elbow, turning our arm when we reach the point at which we can't go back any further at each stage. So just to be really clear on that, we go up, I can't go any further back. I turn my hand slightly, I go back a bit more. Now I can't go any further back. I turn my hand slightly and I can get a little bit more. And I turn my hand slightly again and I can get a little bit more. And then we're turning that into a nice, smooth, but challenging series of circles. And you're going to start to feel that a little bit in your chest, in your pec muscles, and probably a little bit in what's known as your deltoid, the big pad that makes up your shoulder. Now obviously we can now do this the other way, but rather than turning our thumb inwards, we're going to be turning our thumb outwards to allow us to make that rotation. If I try to go backwards and then turn my thumb inwards, it's not going anywhere. So instead, I want to turn my thumb outwards each time I reach that point of strain. And then over the top and back round again. And then we can speed it up slightly. Oh. So by the time you finish that, shoulder should be feeling pretty warm. So let's go through and do the other side. So we lead with the thumb for this one. Go up. Go back as far as we can. Turn the thumb and the palm forward. Go back a bit more. Keep turning. And slowly come round. We don't have to rush this. It's about feeling. We're making this challenging. You can probably tell I'm finding this a bit challenging, but it's not painful. I'm not pushing to the point of pain. So I'm going to demonstrate this seated. I'm going to do one more in this direction, and then we're going to come back the other way. Superb. That's the upper body done. So you may have clocked that when we were doing our upper traps stretches, that was definitely more in the holder stretch flexibility type behavior, where when we were moving through our shoulder rotations, that fell probably more into the mobility side of things, where we were moving our joint through range under some sort of load, which was frankly the effort we were putting in to kind of move those perhaps stiff feeling muscles. Now when we start to look at the lower body, today we're going to be looking at the quadriceps, so the front of your thigh, and the hamstrings, the back of your thigh. And for today we're going to stick with the flexibility, holding a stretch type modes, and we're going to move into some more dynamic stuff in the next couple of videos. The idea is we'll then build up into some sort of flow that you can use on week 4 for a nice mobility stretch of the whole body. But we just want to go through the stages in these videos to make sure that you're comfortable, that you can explore your different options, and so you know when we get to the 4th video what movements you're doing for which muscles. Now with a lot of these stretches, particularly when all we're doing is holding a stretch, there are a number of different ways you can achieve that stretch. So we're going to talk about the principles, and then I'm going to show you some options, and then you can go away and you can practice what I've shown you. You can make some up yourself. There really is no right and wrong, providing you're getting the right sensation. Okay? So with the quadriceps, this muscle actually crosses both the knee and the hip. It's responsible for straightening the leg at the knee joint and bringing the leg up at the hip joint. So in order to get a decent stretch through it, ideally we want to be putting some tension at both ends of the muscle, both through the knee end and through the hip end. And that's why you end up with the classic kind of schoolyard football team stretch. Tends to be standing, where hold on to something, pick your heel up towards your bum. So we've got a bend through the knee, and then the key bit here is take your entire knee backwards and thrust your hips forward. So now I have tension here and here, and you may well feel it through the whole muscle. You may feel it biased to one end or the other. That's all fine. Now we can use an object to balance with, or if you're feeling particularly brave, I quite like to challenge my clients to pretend they're holding a pint, because no one wants to drop that pint. No one wants to spill that pint. So you tend to find you remain really well balanced. And again, 15 to 30 seconds is about right for these stretches. Bend at the knee, hips forward, hold your pint or lean on your chair or your object. Wonderful. Now, it's quite tricky to do the quadricep stretch, try and get my words out, whilst seated, but we can do it while kneeling. So again, we're going to use an object to help us balance and to lean against, and then we're going to get into a kneeling lunge position where we can then try and achieve the same kind of stretch. Now, if you can't grab your foot for whatever reason, then you can actually just lean on your knee and push your pelvis forward. But we're going to try and grab our feet if we can. So I'm in a nice, simple kneeling lunge. I get my foot, I bring my foot towards my bum, and I just go into a bit of a forward lunge. If for whatever reason you can't grab your foot, then to get a stretch, particularly through the top part, you simply kneel and lunge forward. And you'll find you're actually able to lunge slightly further forward than you would be able to if you grabbed your foot, mostly because you're only stretching the muscle from one end, but you'll still get a nice stretch because you're going further into it. Awesome. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do some stretching for the hamstrings, so underneath the thigh. Now again, for these ones, loads and loads of variations. I'm going to take you through some. We can do these sitting, we can do these standing. We can be really imaginative, funnily enough, with the hamstrings. So I'm going to start by showing you again kind of the classic at school gym kind of stretch, which is also known in yoga as the forward fold. Now for this one, to begin with, I'm going to talk and going to show you about keeping a straight back. Now what I don't want you to worry about is that bending your back is in some way dangerous, okay? In this scenario, keeping a straight back is purely because it helps elicit a bit more of a stretch out of the hamstrings. That's all we're going for here. It's a straight back because of the stretch. It's got nothing to do with whether you should keep your back straight or bent whilst bending over. All right? So, again, classic school stretch, feet together, and we're going to bend from the hips, not from the back. We're going to bend from the hips, so we come forward until I can feel a stretch up the back of my legs. So we come forward, you'll notice straight back. I'm not doing this, I'm doing this. I'm bending as if there is a metal rod through my hips, going from one side to another, and I'm bending around it until such point that I stop because I have a nice stretch in my hamstrings. There is nothing stopping you, if you wish, from this point to bend your back and come down and touch the floor. That's fine. You may find a bit more stretch at this point. But if I simply bend my back to begin with, I don't get much of a stretch. I really want to be pushing my hips backwards, weight through my heels, straight back, and getting that nice stretch. Now, if you need something to balance on, or you're uncomfortable with having to manage, say, upper body weight, then having something to lean on is absolutely fine. Exactly the same principles. Weight through the heels, hips go back, straight back, lean on your arms or your hands, and get a nice stretch. Okay, so what if we want to do one leg at a time? Because that one was 2 legs, and we might find that one leg is tighter than the other and we get a stretch on one side and not on the other. So let's look at doing one leg at a time. And there are a few different ways we can do this, and it's all the same principle. A straight knee and a bending at the hip. So again, a classic one from the schoolyard. Toes up, straight leg, straight back, bar through the middle, and bend. My back knee is bent to allow me to come down. This knee is straight, and I have a stretch through this side. You can put your hands on your knee for some balance, or you can hold on to an object. I'll switch sides to show you what it looks like from the other side. So this knee is bent, this leg is straight, toes up, and I can just lean with a straight back into the stretch. Okay, so what if we're seated? How are we going to do it then? So depending on how you're set up seated, you can put one, you can shuffle forward on the seat, so you're sort of perched quite on the edge of the seat. You can put one leg straight, one leg bent, and again, nice straight back, and it's a forward lean. Bring your toes up towards the sky. It will really help straighten that knee and give a nice stretch on the underside of the thigh. Straighten your back to get a better stretch. Again, if you just fold forward, you're not really going to get much of a stretch. We really want the movement to come from the hips rather than the back to benefit. If you can't shuffle forward on the seat, then what you can do is you can get some sort of stool or some sort of object in front of you, and from in your seat, prop your leg up on the object, and again, you'd be leaning forward. And again, you'll be getting a nice stretch through the hamstring. Okay, so that just about wraps it up for this first video. Fairly simple, but I wanted to get some information across so that you can understand what it is that we're trying to achieve. We're going to, in the next video, we're going to move forward into providing some stretches for other parts of the body and starting to play with this idea of dynamic stretching versus static stretching, and when you might apply each of them, particularly when thinking about them in conjunction with Ben's workout videos. So I'll see you in the next one.